Cheating is one thing. Betrayal is another. But what Lisa Carter uncovered wasn't just a betrayal, it was a horrifying secret stretching back decades. A forbidden love. A twisted obsession. A mother and son with a bond that should never have existed. And on October 14, 2022, the truth ended in blood. Lisa had always known that marriage came with challenges. She had always told herself that trust was something you built, something you fought for. That love, real love, could withstand anything. But what she found buried within her own home, between the man she vowed to spend her life with and the woman who raised him, shattered everything she believed. The night it happened, the house was silent. The air was thick, suffocating, pressing against her skin like a warning she had ignored for too long. She stood in the doorway of their bedroom, staring at the man she had once loved. The man who had promised her honesty. The man who had kept a secret so vile, so unfathomable, that it made her stomach turn. Michael Carter lay in bed, unaware that the lies he had built his life upon were closing in on him. That the truth was no longer hidden in whispered phone calls or stolen glances when he thought no one was watching. The truth was standing over him, gripping a knife with trembling hands. The call came in at 3:27 a.m. The dispatcher's voice was steady, controlled, but the voice on the other end was anything but. Ragged breaths. A sob caught in the throat. And then, a confession that would send shockwaves through Austin, Texas. I killed him. He was sleeping. I couldn't stop myself. The news broke within hours. Headlines painted Lisa as a cold-blooded murderer, a wife who snapped in the heat of the moment. But what they didn't know, what the world would soon come to understand, was that this wasn't just another case of infidelity turned deadly. This was something much worse. For years, Michael Carter had lived a double life. A secret so grotesque, it defied comprehension. His affair didn't begin last year. It didn't begin after a drunken mistake or a fleeting temptation. It had begun the moment he turned 19. And the woman he had spent his entire marriage hiding, was his own mother. Lisa had spent years doubting herself. The unexplained disappearances. The whispers behind closed doors. The way Margaret Carter, her mother-in-law, had always clung to Michael as if he were more than just her son. It had been there all along, just beneath the surface. She had convinced herself that she was imagining things, that her suspicions were irrational. That no mother could ever look at her own son that way. That no son would ever let her. She had been wrong. Now, a husband was dead. A wife was in handcuffs. And a mother, twisted by her own obsession, was about to be exposed for the monster she truly was. How did it all begin? And what finally pushed Lisa Carter to the breaking point? Stay with us as we unravel a story so twisted, it barely feels real. Austin, Texas 2020 to 2022. Lisa Carter had spent years believing she had the kind of marriage others envied. On the surface, everything seemed perfect. Michael was a respected businessman, known for his charm and generosity. He had built a name for himself in the real estate industry, shaking hands with politicians, business moguls, and socialites who all saw him as the man with the golden touch. Lisa, a former schoolteacher, had left her career behind to focus on their family. She was the devoted wife, the woman who hosted dinner parties, volunteered at local charities, and stood by Michael's side at every gala and fundraiser. Together, they looked like a picture of success. Their home in the upscale Westlake Hills neighborhood of Austin was a testament to their hard work, a sprawling, modern estate with glass walls that let in the golden Texas sun. Their lives were carefully curated, shared in glimpses through smiling photos on social media. Anniversary trips to Europe. Sunday brunches at five-star restaurants. Celebrations with friends that ended in toasts to their future. But behind the picture-perfect posts, something was deeply wrong. It started subtly, so subtly that Lisa couldn't even pinpoint when the feeling of unease first crept in. Perhaps it was when Margaret Carter, Michael's mother, moved into their home after the sudden death of her husband. Lisa had tried to be understanding. Margaret had been married to Richard Carter for over 30 years before his fatal heart attack in 2020. Grief did strange things to people. She convinced herself that Michael was just being a good son, that Margaret needed them. Still, there was something unsettling about how quickly Margaret took up space in their lives. At first, Lisa brushed off the little things, the way Margaret insisted on cooking all of Michael's meals, serving him before anyone else, and hovering over him with an affection that felt excessive. Then there were the late-night whispers coming from the living room. She would wake up to find them sitting too close, speaking in hushed tones, their heads inclined toward each other like co-conspirators sharing a secret. She told herself she was imagining it. That she was overthinking. That she was being ridiculous. Until she wasn't. It wasn't just Lisa who noticed. Friends started making comments, jokes, at first. "Your husband sure is a mama's boy," someone had laughed at a dinner party. "She treats him like he's still a teenager." Lisa had forced a smile, pretending it didn't bother her. But the longer Margaret lived with them, the more the lines blurred. The private phone calls. The way Michael always took his mother's side in even the smallest disagreements. The lingering touches that weren't quite motherly. One night, Lisa caught Margaret sneaking into their bedroom. She had woken up to get a glass of water, only to find Margaret standing by Michael's side of the bed, staring down at him while he slept. Her fingers barely grazed his cheek before she turned and left the room. Lisa stood frozen in the darkness, watching her mother-in-law disappear into the hallway. She wanted to believe there was an innocent explanation. She wanted to believe she was wrong. But the deeper she looked, the more the truth revealed itself. Lisa had been married to Michael for over a decade, but there were parts of his past he never spoke about. She had always assumed his childhood was typical. That Margaret had been the doting mother, and Richard, the hard-working father. That was the story Michael told, the version of his life he allowed her to see. But as the tension in their home thickened, Lisa began digging. And what she found was something she could never unsee. Buried deep in the back of their walk-in closet was a locked wooden box, one she had never noticed before. It wasn't until she found the key, tucked away in Michael's sock drawer, that she opened it. Inside, there were letters. Dozens of them. Some yellowed with age, others more recent, their ink still crisp against the paper. Lisa picked one at random and began to read. "My love, I can still feel you. Every part of me longs for you. The way you make me feel, no one else ever could. You are my heart. My soul. I would rather die than be apart from you." The letter wasn't signed. But the handwriting was unmistakable. Lisa recognized it instantly. It was Margaret's. Letter after letter, she read the confessions of a woman who was not just a mother, but something far worse. A woman who had claimed her own son in a way that defied every boundary. And Michael had never stopped it. Even after marrying Lisa. Even after building a life with another woman. The affair had never ended. It had been there all along, in every whispered conversation. In every touch Lisa had ignored. In every moment Margaret had stolen from their marriage. The walls closed in around her. The air in the closet felt thick, suffocating. The truth wasn't just in her hands, it was seeping into her skin, making her sick. Her husband had never been faithful. Because his mistress had been there from the very beginning. Lisa clutched the letters, her heart pounding. 1,000 thoughts raced through her mind, each one colliding with the next. How long had this been going on? Had anyone else known? And most of all, how had she not seen it sooner? She had married a man who belonged to someone else. And that someone, was his mother. Long before Lisa discovered the truth, before she ever became part of Michael's life, the foundation had already been cracked. Michael Carter was born into a family that looked perfect on the outside, a successful father, a devoted mother, a privileged childhood in a home filled with everything a boy could want. But behind the locked doors of their estate, the dynamics were anything but normal. His father, Richard Carter, was rarely home. His work in the oil industry kept him away for weeks at a time, traveling from state to state, closing deals, making millions, and coming home just long enough to remind his family that money was more important than time. Margaret was left alone, lonely, isolated, desperate for attention. And so, she turned to the only person who was always there. Her son. Michael had always been his mother's favorite. She dressed him in expensive clothes, paraded him around at charity events like a trophy, and reminded him, constantly, that he was different from other boys. Special, she called him. She bathed him until an age that made others uncomfortable. She held him longer than necessary. She whispered to him at night, filling his young mind with thoughts that should never have come from a mother. By the time he turned 19, the boundary between mother and son had disappeared entirely. Margaret Carter was no ordinary mother. She didn't just love her son. She consumed him. Michael had been conditioned from childhood to believe that his mother's love was different. More powerful. More important than anyone else's. She told him that women would never understand him the way she did. That no one would ever love him like she could. And he believed her. The psychological control was absolute. It was more than just affection, it was manipulation disguised as love. Whenever Michael tried to pull away, Margaret reeled him back in. She guilted him, crying in the middle of the night about how she had sacrificed everything for him. She convinced him that the world was cruel, that people only wanted to use him, that he could trust no one but her. He tried dating in college. Brief relationships with girls who never lasted more than a few months. Because Margaret made sure of it. She inserted herself into every relationship, planting doubt in his mind, picking apart every girl who dared get too close. She's not right for you. She'll hurt you. She doesn't really love you. And every time, Michael listened. The women disappeared. And Margaret remained. When Michael met Lisa, something changed. Lisa was strong, independent, and nothing like the women Margaret had chased away before. She wasn't easy to manipulate. She loved Michael fiercely, but she wasn't blind. She saw the closeness between him and his mother and questioned it. She pushed back when Margaret tried to control their lives. And Margaret hated her for it. Even as Michael stood at the altar, promising his life to another woman, Margaret believed he still belonged to her. The secret meetings never stopped. The hidden phone calls, the sudden disappearances, Lisa saw the signs. She would wake up in the middle of the night, only to find Michael's side of the bed empty. He had slipped out again, his phone buzzing with messages he never let her read. When she asked where he had been, the excuses were endless. Late-night work meetings. Helping his mom with something at the house. She needed me. Lisa wanted to trust him. She wanted to believe there was an innocent explanation. But deep down, she knew. She just didn't know how deep the deception ran. Margaret didn't just dislike Lisa. She despised her. She saw her as an intruder. A woman who had stolen what was rightfully hers. The manipulation became relentless. Margaret whispered in Michael's ear, planting seeds of doubt about his wife. She's using you. She doesn't really love you. She's cheating on you, I can feel it. The accusations escalated. Margaret began to tell Michael that Lisa was the unfaithful one. That she had seen the way she looked at other men. That she was going to leave him, take everything and ruin him. Margaret's voice was a poison that seeped into Michael's mind, twisting reality, making him question everything. And then came the final words that pushed it all over the edge. She'll never love you like I do. And for the first time in his life, Michael believed her. What happened next would turn their once idyllic home into a crime scene. Lisa was about to uncover the full, horrifying truth. And when she did, there would be no turning back. For years, Lisa had pushed down the unsettling feelings. She had ignored the whispers in her mind, the ones that told her something was deeply wrong. She had convinced herself that she was imagining things, that she was overreacting. But by early 2022, the truth was clawing its way to the surface. Michael's excuses had become too frequent, too rehearsed. She's just lonely, Lisa. She lost her husband. She needs me. You're being paranoid. Lisa wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that she was the problem, that she was the jealous one, the insecure one. But then, the signs became impossible to ignore. Michael's behavior shifted. He was more distant, more irritable. He started locking his phone, something he had never done before. His clothes smelled like perfume that wasn't hers. He would disappear for hours at a time, always with an excuse. Running errands for Mom. She needed me to fix something at the house. I was at the gym. And then, there were the nights when he simply didn't come home at all. Lisa lay awake in their bed, staring at the ceiling, her heart pounding. Something was wrong. Something was very, very wrong. Lisa's investigation. Lisa had always trusted her husband. She had never felt the need to check his phone, to go through his things. Until now. One evening, while Michael was in the shower, she took his phone from the nightstand. Her hands trembled as she scrolled through his messages, her breath coming in short, shallow gasps. Most of his texts with Margaret seemed normal. Ordinary. But there were gaps, entire conversations that had been deleted. Why would he delete messages with his own mother? Lisa's stomach twisted. She opened his email. And that's when she saw it. An email from Margaret, sent in the early hours of the morning. A message no mother should ever send her son. I can't stand being away from you. Every moment apart feels like torture. No one will ever understand what we have. No one ever could. You are mine, Michael. You will always be mine. Lisa dropped the phone. Her vision blurred. Her hands went cold. Her body knew the truth before her mind could fully process it. This wasn't an overbearing mother. This wasn't a son taking care of his grieving parent. This was something else. Something unnatural. Something horrifying. Confrontation number 1, the gaslighting. Lisa sat in the dark, waiting for Michael to come home. When he walked through the door, she didn't speak. She simply held up the phone, the email open on the screen. Tell me the truth, she said, her voice shaking. What is going on between you two? Michael's face went pale. Then, just as quickly, his expression hardened. You went through my phone. His voice was cold, defensive. That's all you have to say? Lisa snapped. You don't think this is disgusting. A mother doesn't talk to her son like this, Michael. This isn't normal. Michael exhaled sharply, shaking his head. You're making something out of nothing. Lisa's stomach twisted. You deleted your messages, she whispered. Michael's eyes darkened. Because I knew you'd react like this. Lisa's hands clenched into fists. You're lying. Michael scoffed. You're being paranoid, Lisa. You're reading into things that aren't there. Gaslighting. Denial. Manipulation. Lisa felt the ground shift beneath her. She had spent years loving this man. Trusting him. And now, she wasn't even sure who he was. The breaking point. Days passed. Lisa tried to act normal. She went about her daily routine, but she was watching. Waiting. Looking for proof. Then, one night, she found it. Michael had fallen asleep on the couch. His phone buzzed on the table next to him. Lisa's heart pounded as she reached for it. A message. From Margaret. I miss you. Meet me in the bedroom. Lisa's breath caught in her throat. The bedroom? The blood in her veins turned to ice. She stood, her legs unsteady beneath her. Slowly, silently, she made her way down the hall. She reached the door. It was slightly open. And then, she saw them. Michael. Margaret. Together. Lisa froze. The air left her lungs. Her entire world shattered in an instant. Margaret turned, her eyes locking onto Lisa's. There was no shame. No fear. No regret. Only a cruel, knowing smile. You were never supposed to find out, she said softly. Lisa's body moved before her mind could catch up. She ran. Out of the bedroom. Down the hall. Screaming. Sobbing. She didn't stop until she was outside, the cold night air burning her skin. Her heart was pounding. Her vision was swimming. Her marriage had been a lie. Her life had been a lie. And now, there was no going back. The days following Lisa's discovery were a blur. She barely ate. Sleep was out of the question. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw them. Michael and Margaret, their twisted love affair unraveling before her like a grotesque nightmare. Lisa spent hours locked in their bedroom, staring at the walls, replaying every lie, every excuse, every moment she had trusted him. Flashbacks tormented her. Their wedding day, Michael promising to love her forever. Their honeymoon, his arms wrapped around her, whispering that she was his everything. Every birthday, every anniversary, every memory, now a grotesque joke. Her mind fractured under the weight of it all. She had given her life to this man. And he had given himself to his mother. A sickness twisted inside her. She wasn't just grieving a marriage. She was grieving the version of herself that had believed in it. And that woman was already dead. October 14th. Lisa stood in the kitchen, staring at the knife block. Her fingers hovered over the handle of the largest blade. She had spent nights wondering if she should leave. If she should run. But where could she go? The betrayal wasn't just in her home. It was inside her. There was only one way to make it stop. The house was silent. Michael was asleep in their bed. Lisa moved slowly, deliberately. She wasn't shaking. She wasn't crying. She was beyond emotion now. She opened the door. The moonlight cast shadows over his sleeping face, peaceful, oblivious. She gripped the knife, stepping closer. Her voice was barely above a whisper. You destroyed me. Michael stirred. His eyes fluttered open, confusion flickering across his face. Then, before he could react. The first stab. A gasp. A choked scream. Blood seeped through the sheets. The second stab. Michael thrashed, his hands reaching for her, but Lisa didn't stop. The third. The fourth. The fifth. By the time she pulled the knife back, the room was drenched in crimson. Michael's mouth opened, but no words came out. Just a wet gurgling sound. His hands twitched. His chest heaved. Then, stillness. Silence. Lisa stood over him, panting, the knife dripping in her hand. And then. A scream. Margaret. She stood in the doorway, her eyes wild, her hands trembling. "No," she whispered, stepping forward. "What did you do?" Lisa turned to face her. Margaret's hands clenched into fists, her body shaking. But Lisa saw it, the flicker of something else behind her eyes. Not grief. Not horror. Something darker. Lisa tightened her grip on the knife. Margaret took a step closer. And then, Lisa did something she never expected. She smiled. Lisa didn't run. She didn't try to hide. She picked up Michael's phone from the nightstand, blood smearing across the screen as she dialed. The call connected. 911, what's your emergency? Lisa's voice was eerily calm. I killed him. Silence on the other end. Then. Ma'am, can you repeat that? Lisa stared at Michael's lifeless body. He deserved it. In the doorway, Margaret collapsed to her knees, sobbing. Or was she? Lisa watched her carefully, the way her shoulders shook, the way she clutched her face. Theatrics. Because behind her cries, there was no true sadness. No love lost. Only something that felt like relief. The police arrived to find Lisa still sitting on the edge of the bed, the knife on the floor beside her. Michael's body was mutilated, blood soaking through the mattress, pooling on the floor. But there was something else. Michael's phone, still unlocked. A series of messages from Margaret, all sent hours before his death. I need you. She's starting to suspect. Come to me tonight. Detectives scrolled through, their faces twisting in disgust. The email. The deleted messages. The credit card statements showing lavish gifts, hotel rooms. And then, the most damning piece of evidence. A transaction, dated 5 years earlier. A quiet settlement. To an anonymous accuser. Lisa was taken into custody, her wrists bound in cold metal. She didn't resist. At the station, she sat in the interrogation room, staring at the table, silent. Hours passed. Finally, a detective leaned forward. You haven't said much, Lisa. But we need to know. Why did you do it? Lisa lifted her gaze, her eyes empty. I had to, she said simply. The detective swallowed hard. This is the most disturbing case I've ever worked. Margaret sat across from detectives, her face pale, her eyes rimmed with tears. It wasn't an affair, she insisted. Michael just loved me. We had a special bond. The detectives exchanged looks. Margaret, one of them said carefully, we found emails. Messages. Bank transactions. Margaret's lip trembled. I only wanted to protect him, she whispered. But the evidence told a different story. Michael wasn't just her son. He had been her victim. For years. And Lisa? She was just the collateral damage. Lisa's attorney called it temporary insanity. A crime of passion. Lisa herself took the stand. I wasn't just betrayed by my husband, she told the jury. I was betrayed by reality itself. The courtroom was silent. Margaret's role. Psychologists were called. Experts testified. Margaret was painted as an abuser, a master manipulator. The jury listened in shock. But no charges were filed against her. No concrete evidence of coercion. Only whispers. Only shadows of the truth. Lisa Carter was found guilty of second-degree murder. Sentenced to 25 years to life. Margaret? She walked out of that courtroom a free woman. Behind bars, Lisa wrote letters. To no one in particular. Some were filled with regret. Some with relief. But in all of them, one thing was clear. She had loved a man who never truly existed. And now, she would spend the rest of her life haunted by that love. Margaret's life now. She moved away. Changed her name. Started over. Some say she remarried. Others whisper she found someone new to manipulate. Someone younger. Someone more vulnerable. Chilling final thought. Some betrayals don't just break hearts. They break lives. And sometimes, the real monster walks free.